This is Tar Heel Talk, an in-depth look at the issues and people making news in North Carolina. Here's your host, Sonia Williams.
Today's show focuses on absent fathers and the support systems available to help them reconnect with their children and become better parents. My first guest is Glenn Morin, founder and executive director of Fathers Forever, a nonprofit organization that helps fathers with their parenting skills and more. Glenn, welcome back to Tar Heel Talk.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's been a long time. Fathers Forever has been in place now for about 8 years.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the history of the organization and its mission.
Its mission is to help fathers kind of reunite back to their kids. We partnership with Wake County Child Support Enforcement. Guys who are at risk of going to jail for non-child support, the court system, in lieu of sending them to jail, send them to our program. And for 24 weeks, we take them through a course in fatherhood. And after the 24 weeks, we have a big graduation. We've had over 700 guys graduated over the last 8 years.
Wow.
And we've had 14 graduations, the last one being in June of this year.
Okay. Now, over 700 fathers participating in this program. That sounds like a lot, but you're saying there's so many more.
There's so many more. The need for fatherhood program is massive. There's a lot of programs for women, and I understand that. There's a lot of programs for kids. I understand that too. But a lot of times the program for men is very few in between. And the men sometimes is the reasons why the women are struggling the way they are, and the kids are having the issues that they are because the fathers are not in place. So if we're going to fix the system, we have to fix the part of the system which causes a lot of the problems, and that is the absence of fathers. And we've got to do in a society more of getting fatherhood programs like ours and others in place to help fathers understand their role as a father and their responsibility to their children.
Right, so talk a little bit more about the programs and the services that you provide, because I know that you offer a number of services to these fathers. It doesn't just focus on the child support piece.
Yes, we get referrals from domestic violence court because we talk about domestic violence and rearing of the father of the child. We get referral from the Child Protective Service. We get the referral from Department of Public Safety, guys who are now getting out of jail and need a place to stay. We provide housing, and I think we're going to talk about more of that in the next session. But we teach fathers how to be men to some degree, and the importance of paying their child support and being present to their kids and getting along with the mom.
Right.
That's a major issue. And that's all through our curriculum. We talk about co-parenting. And parenting is tough in itself. By itself is tough when you got two loving parents and live in the same household. Parenting is tough. But it's even worse when you got two parents in separate households. Now they got tension between one another. And the kids are brought in the middle of the fight, and the kids are suffering. So all through our 24 weeks, we give them tools of co-parenting and how to get along now with the ex-wife, the mother of their kids.
And so there are other services that you provide for some of the younger men, I understand?
Yes, we're doing what we're going to be doing. It's called kind of sagging to swagging, where we bring in young guys in, 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, and we're talking to them about the importance of, number one, pulling their pants up, and number two, we show them how to tie a necktie and how to dress appropriately. And we talk to them about peer pressure and drugs and alcohol and all those things. And we talk to them about destiny and purpose, because one day they're going to grow up.
Right.
And the sagging thing is a lot of guys are into that. And we talk about the number one, the inappropriateness of that. And number two, you put a bullseye on your back when you walk around with those kind of clothes on. And those are the issues we talk about. And we also work with the Hammond Road Detention Center, where we had a class in jail where guys there are fathers as well, and we talk to them about, we got a captive audience, and we go in there for 9 weeks, and we talk to them about fatherhood and men issues as well. Depression in men and alcohol and drugs and all those things, they keep them from being the father that they was intended to be.
How effective has Fathers Forever been in the past 8 years? Oh,
it's very effective in my opinion, because I'm kind of biased. But I think when we have guys graduate, and we had their family members come, and they stand and they applaud, and these guys walk across the stage and they get the certificate, and they stand there and they cry and they tell us how mad they were when they was ordered. And by the way, the judges are coming to the judges come to the graduation. They're part of the graduation, and they're there, and they're, you know, the guys are mad with them because they ordered them to come to Fathers Forever. But now they're happy, and they tell the judge, "Thank you for this, because this is what I need." And to have the parents there, to have the ex-wife to come and be a part of this, and to have the kids there, it's a good thing for everybody. That number one, these guys are accomplishing something. Now, 80% of them graduate with jobs, and with a better relationship with not only with their child, but the child's mom, which is a major importance. So it's very successful. I see guys all the time, you know, they, "Hey, Mr. Glenn, how you doing?" And I thought, "When you gonna come back to class?" Or they tell me, "When can I come back and talk to the other guys?" Because they've graduated, and they're doing the thing that they should be doing. Because I think we give them maybe the foundation that they didn't have growing up. Maybe they didn't grow up without a father, and nobody really told them how important they are as fathers, as men. And for the 24 weeks that we impart in them, we tell them every day how important you are and how your child depends on you. And whether you will live with your child or not, the child is your responsibility. We also challenge them that it's not our responsibility as society to raise your child. That's your child.
Right.
And we'll help you, but it's not our responsibility. And we give them those tools and confidence and courage, things that they need to be the man that they was intended to be and be fathers. And it's really good for everybody at the graduation. These guys, they show up at court, you know, because we in the courtroom 3 days a week, and they come back for reviews, and, you know, the judges now, some of them fall off the wagon and not do the same thing, but the vast majority of them, they come back and I got a job, and I'm paying my child support, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and that's rewarding in itself.
Absolutely. Now, do you help with those job skills or interviewing skills to help them
Yes,
get
part of our
jobs?
curriculum is we have a curriculum, and part of that is we go to mock interviews and we help them, you know, go out and look for jobs. We got job leads. We work with a temp agency, Access Services. We work with them, and it's a temporary agency, but they help them get jobs. And we send those guys to the agency, and they kind of take priority because they're coming for us, and they help them get jobs.
I know when you were on the show years ago, you talked about deadbeat dads versus dead broke dads,
Yes.
and the difference between the two.
There is a big difference. Most of the guys that are in our program, I would say, are not deadbeat. They are dead broke because they got criminal records. They can't find a job. They're uneducated, and, you know, they've just been beat down. And some of it's because of the choices they made. I'm not giving them a free pass on this, but in my mind, they're not necessarily the deadbeat. The deadbeat dads, they are out there. We have kind of 3 categories. There is probably 30% of them are deadbeat dads. We don't see them. They don't show up. They don't come at all. They go to jail. Somebody purge. They get out, and they fall under the radar screen until they get caught again by the police. Then they go back to jail. We don't never see those guys. The other set of guys is they have means to pay their child support, but they're mad with their ex-wife. They're mad with whoever. They don't pay it. At risk of going to jail, they start paying their child support. They don't come to see us by this time because they start paying their child support, and they kind of, what the judges wanted them to pay it, so they kind of get a pass. They don't come necessarily. The other 30% of guys who really help, those are the guys that want to pay their child support. They have those barriers, what I just mentioned, and they can't find a job, and they need help. And those are the ones that we kind of help. Those are the ones we're trying to get back on the straight and narrow. And they do very well.
How can people find out more information about Fathers Forever?
They can go to our website, www.afatherforever.com. They can call us at 919-779-9905. That's our office number. We're open from 9 to 5. We open 3029 Stony Brook Road in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a break. We'll talk more a little bit later in the show.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Up next, providing mental health and substance abuse support for those who need it. We'll hear more when Tar Heel Talk continues. Studies show 1 in 5 adults have a mental health condition and that the mental health of youth is worsening. My guest today leads an organization working to provide support for families dealing with mental health and substance abuse issues. Joining me now is James Ward, founder and CEO of Sigma Health Services. Welcome to Tar Heel Talk.
Thank you, Sonia.
Talk a little bit about the services that you provide, because you do provide both mental health and substance abuse. Talk about the approach that Sigma Health Services takes.
First, I'd just like to start off saying thank you for inviting me on the show, and also just giving a 30-second history. Sigma Health Services has been founded around 2009, so we've been open almost about close to 8.5 years. And we provide more of substance abuse array of services. Our core competency area would be more around substance abuse treatment for child, adolescent, and adult. Those are our specialty areas. However, we've also created a lot of programs that support our substance abuse core regarding dual diagnosis and mental health, and those areas would serve anywhere from adolescent age of probably 6 years old all the way up to 64, 65. As far as our total population that we serve. And we serve people that actually are suffering from substance abuse, whether it's self-medicating or whether it's a situation where they have a mental health challenge as well.
So talk a little bit then about the program and, like I said, the approach that you take. I know you're working with children and families.
Yes, we definitely are. And before I talk about the opioid epidemic, I'll talk a little bit more about some of the services as far as we currently run a teen SAOP, which is substance abuse treatment program, intensive outpatient treatment program. We also run adult substance abuse treatment program. We run it 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We currently provide transportation for our adult population from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then our evening program for our adolescents or teenagers is from 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We also offer some outpatient therapy where our clinicians can actually work with the clients in the home or the field, whichever is more convenient for that client base. As well as DWI services. If someone is caught or, under the influence, we provide DWI services as well. And
okay, tell a little bit more about that. What exactly does that entail?
Well, you have DWI services also driving under influence. So if anyone is cited by law enforcement for receiving a ticket for actually, consuming a illegal substance or being intoxicated, they would come and get an assessment, and that assessment would determine how many hours that they would need to be part of the program.
Okay. So are they referred to you by the court system, or is it something where they come on their own?
Currently, a lot of those referrals are coming from attorneys that are made to our agency.
Okay. And so what are some of the other services that you provide, in particular for families?
Okay, and I'm happy to announce that we offer bilingual services where we actually do some type of therapy, whether it be dealing with ADHD or child behavior issues, school-based issues therapy. And one of the areas that we really highlighted lately that we have training in is trauma-focused therapy. And so some of the individuals we find that have some type of trauma that they've received in their lives, and we specialize in some trauma-focused therapy as well.
So it's kind of like you're a one-stop shop. They can come for counseling and guidance, medication management, so you have both therapists and physicians who work with.
That is correct. And so right now, our model that I'm trying to create more of a sustainability model, a sustainable model going into the future. So 65% of our business is private pay, and 35% of our business is formulated through Medicaid. And currently we're endorsed, or should I say we're under Alliance Behavioral Healthcare as an MCL managed care organization, as well as Cardinal Behavioral Healthcare. We've been in good standing, and when I look at some of our programs, we're constantly working on training and things of that nature. I think the most satisfying part of the program is when we're especially working with some of the youth, and we actually see them move from some of the areas that are risky to more of an area that they've actually been able to totally be able to walk away from some type of substance. It's always gratifying to us. From an adult population, sometimes they've had long-term issues with drugs and alcohol, and sometimes the recovery process is a little bit more difficult. We try to create opportunities to meet the consumers where they are, and like what we realize is that housing is a major challenge for the adult population, especially on drugs and alcohol. And working with transportation is another barrier, so we provide transportation currently. We also link them with housing, with Oxford House and Jacobs House, so we try to make sure we work with our consumers to minimize the risk and things of that nature.
Okay. Now, you were talking earlier about the opioid epidemic. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in that regard in our area.
So when I look at that area, when I look at it from a holistic approach and over a historical approach, some of the heroin, things like that have been prevalent for a long time. I think now with the opioid epidemic, we're looking at more of a population of more affluent population that we're seeing now that's currently more into the opioids as far as the usage of opioids or heroin, and we're having, just unfortunate, overwhelming amount of people now are passing or losing their lives as a result of the opioid epidemic. And so we currently offer what we call Suboxone, which is a medicated type treatment to try to minimize, the interest or the taste of that craving for pain pills.
Okay. How can people find out more information about Sigma Health Services?
I would say they definitely can visit our website, which is www.sigmahealthservices.com. And also we are, as far as Suboxone, they can actually go to a website and search, and they'll see us as a provider agency for that as well.
Okay. And you also have a 24-hour crisis line, 919-669-4496. So that's available if people need
Definitely.
any help.
24-hour crisis phone, yes, ma'am. Definitely.
Okay. All right, well, we're going to take a break. We'll talk more in just a minute.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more Tar Heel Talk after these messages. We're talking today about absent fathers and the support systems they need to help them reconnect with their children and become better parents. And with us again is James Ward, founder and CEO of Sigma Health Services, and Glenn Warren, founder and executive director of Fathers Forever. Now, I understand that the two of you, your organizations, are joining forces to provide even more support for these fathers who are in transition. So tell us about that.
Yes, we have a contract with the state Department of Public Safety, where we have a 10-bed facility in Wake County for men who are transitioning from incarceration. And for 90 days, we have given these men opportunities to come and stay at this house, where we give them 3 meals and provide support services. A lot of recidivism is back because men don't have a place to stay when they get released from jail. They're released back to the shelter or wherever, or back to the neighborhood where the same crime they committed prior, they're back there again, and they end up, because they can't pay the child support or they can't, take care of their family, they end up doing the same thing and get back. So this particular contract with the state allow us to have these men for 90 days to come in and provide an array of services. And one of them is to have the place to stay at for 90 days, which is a major part of this. We have a house in Raleigh where there's 10 men that stay in this house, and we provide services with them. So our collaboration with Sigma, and we'll have to let James talk more about that, is to we provide some substance abuse and mental health issues, and some job searches. So James' organization, Sigma, you can talk more about the services that you can provide for us.
Well, absolutely. And I think one of the things that when Glenn and I started working on the incubator process and looking at how do we collaborate and be able to come together and provide a service that gives more of a continuum of a delivery to be able to help a person that's not just in 90 days. We actually are the wraparound service for substance abuse. So we work with some of these individuals that are in recovery. So we minimize the recidivism and the thought of them going back to jail or something like that. So we work within a motivational interviewing type technique, as well as a matrix model for the substance abuse therapy that we provide within his client base. And we do a lot of the partners in collaboration to make sure we try to get outcomes. One of the things that I'm specifically interested in is looking at analytics, looking at the data. I want to be able to look at the outcome measures, and it tells a story. The data is going to tell us a story on how we track these individuals, how do we minimize it, and how do we track our success. So those things are very important. So we're working together on analyzing the data and support systems.
Okay. So over the course of the time, the 90 days that the men are there, the goal is to help them with their transition. If they're abusing or if they have some substance abuse issues, help them with that and help them find employment.
Yeah, they have mandatory classes they have to come to, with substance abuse classes they got to come to, mental health classes they got to come to, and we also help them find jobs. We talked about family for unification, because a lot of these guys have burnt some of the bridges in their addiction or in their life of crime, and we try to help them, give them skills now to go back and reunify with their mom, their dad, their significant others, and it's very positive to see these guys now working towards that goal, because they're not out on the streets, and we work with again Access Help Services, Access the temp services. We work with them, and they help those guys find jobs. So now, for 90 days, they got an opportunity to get a permanent job and also have a permanent place to stay at, well, temporary place to stay at, while they're looking for permanent housing and permanent jobs. But they do have to go to these substance abuse classes that James offered and these mental health classes, because a lot of men suffer from depression. And being in jail itself, being in jail itself is, I've never been to jail, thank God, but I can imagine what it's mentally, what it does to a person. And now you're having to come out and you got to cope with society. And so James, as well as others, are helping us to help these men kind of get oriented back to this freedom life and how to not make the same choices that they made before to get them back into the problem that they got in before.
Right. Talk a little bit about the classes that you offer.
So basically, we looked at the schedule. So we create a daily schedule, and a couple times a week, for maybe 2 hours, we have individuals or group sessions where we actually work with those individuals in a substance abuse type of therapy or treatment. We also recognize individuals that need individualized treatment. One of the good things is that currently Sigma Health Services has access to a psychiatrist. We have a psychiatrist on staff. We have 2 MDs, and we also have quite a few therapists. But our primary focus is to work on the substance abuse, but because we have the capabilities and the wherewithal to offer other services, when we see those individuals that may need more individualized attention, we're able to work with them. We also look at working with Fathers Forever on the physical health needs of these individuals as well as the mental health. So we take more of a holistic approach, and we brought in some components that, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of self-needs, you look at certain things that are very important. So the housing component is something we teach them love and respect for one another. We also link them to primary care physicians. We also link them with Oasis Health and Wellness, which is one of our other collaborative partners to work on the wellness and the mindfulness of an individual. And then we also have the stability part that we brought into the grant opportunity and collaboration of partnerships with housing, Jacobs Housing. So we actually have identified some of the core programs that we need to make sure that we're successful in delivering a healthy outcome for these individuals.
And what happens after the 90 days that they're here?
If they haven't quite gotten to the place where they can live on their own, we can go for the extension, another 30 days. And, if they're looking and working and don't quite have the money saved up, we can ask for a 30-day extension. After then, they're pretty much now on their own for as housing concerned. But as far as the grant is much, that's a limitation of the grant. But we're going to help them find other housing sources. So during those 90 days, that's what it's like walking and chewing at the same time. You got to work.
Right.
And you got to do these classes, but you got to find permanent housing and permanent, again, that's why family reunification is so important, and help them get the skills because maybe they can go back to their family members, or maybe they can find their own apartment, or find another boarding house, another house kind of like ours. And so those are the skills that we try to help them do, because there is a limitation. But again, 90 days is a lot from being released to a house where you have services as opposed to being released to a shelter.
Right.
It's a big difference.
We have about a minute left in the program, and you both are single fathers. Any advice and you know firsthand the challenges that causes, quickly, any advice for single dads out there who might need a little support?
I'll let Glenn start first, and I'll say something second.
Find out who you are. Love yourself, love your kids, be responsible.
Yeah, and I would just echo it. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations that we didn't plan on, but I think the most important thing is to try to give that child the most love, and also just continue to let that be a motivation to be in their lives, because what you'll find is it's a tremendous blessing to you. And for me, it's definitely allowed me to reach my potential instead of just being, I always tell people there's a competitive difference between being good and great. And I think when you have something that inspires you, like being a father, it allows you to try to reach into your greatness.
Well said, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us today. That's it for this week's show. I'm Sonia Williams. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again next week.
Thank you.